What's up, everyone? Welcome into Stadium Drive Week 9 here at Sheridan High School. Will Ford and Aaron Sprague. It's rivalry week, and it is the biggest rivalry of all rivalries in this area. Sheridan Generals, Tri-Valley Scotties, the 54th meeting between the two. Sheridan won 2 out of the last 3, and Aaron, this is just as big as it gets as far as football in Southeast Ohio.
I mean, anyone that's a fan of MVL football, anyone that goes to an MVL school or just follows this area knows this is the game that's circled every year on the calendar, that no matter who graduates the year before, who's done what, this game is going to be the game of the year, and it is built up to that this year. Now, Tri-Valley does have a pair of losses, but unbeaten in league play, while Sheridan is 8-0 overall. But, man, this thing has the makings of an instant classic, in my opinion.
It really does. Yeah, now if you look at the history of this matchup, since 1999, the last 24 matchups, it's an even split 12-12.
Wow.
Dominated by Sheridan early, then 7 of the last 10 have went to Tri-Valley, but like I said, 2 out of the last 3 to Sheridan, including last year. They won 14-13, and that game, I mean, that was a great finish to that game last year. And so, like you said, we're set up for, I think, another instant classic here tonight. And there's always – what's special about this game is it's not just a rivalry. It's not that they're just playing for bragging rights. They're always playing for something at the end of the year, whether it's playoff positioning or it's for a league title, like you said. And really the winner of this game, if Sheridan wins, they're going to win the MVL Big School title. But if Tri-Valley wins, they're in the driver's seat with 1 week to play. So
yeah, it's for any historians out there, I think it'd be a great challenge at this point. You talk about the 10-year war between Woody and Bo, Ohio State, Michigan. This would be like a 25-year war, or even the last 10 or 15, because the heroes and the legends of these games, you are made as a legend or hero if you perform in this game.
Yep.
You will be remembered forever. Going back, my recent memory, there are quite a few, but one that really sticks out in my mind, Dylan Dupler was a great player here at Sheridan. He cemented his legacy when Sheridan went to Jack Anderson Stadium in Dresden in 2016 and halted Tri-Valley's 47-game MVL win streak. That was huge. And Dylan Dupler had over 300 all-purpose yards in that game. So that's just an example of, one, the overall big picture of this game, and then how you can become a legend. But that was, again, going back in the history, Will, Sheridan did own this rivalry for a long time.
Yep.
Because the problem was, what was going on was Tri-Valley was a sleeping giant forever. Mm-hmm. They were always a big school. Should have been good at football, never really was. A guy named Justin Buttermore came in, and he changed that.
Yes.
And then Tri-Valley kind of took the upper hand for quite a while in the MVL, and then Sheridan's had their recent resurgence to make this interesting again. And that's been back and forth. But, it is amazing what has happened in this rivalry. One more thing to point out, anyone in the comments watching live, I was in town today talking about what game I was going to tonight. Everyone brings up the Pylon game. So if you remember the Pylon game, leave us a comment and tell us if you thought it was a touchdown or not. I don't remember the exact years, mid-2000s, but basically it came down to Sheridan diving at the Pylon at the end of the game. Did he get it? Was he out of bounds? It won the game. Basically, his time expired. So if you remember the Pylon game, leave a comment, because I think that is probably the most talked about game in this rivalry.
It's before my time for sure. Yeah, I'm relatively new to the rivalry now that I'm working with you guys and just being around high school football a lot more. And I was a little kid when that was going on, of course. So, but we will. Let's take a look though. I talked about the rivalry, the last 24 matchups, and on your screen here. You see the breakdown year by year from 1999, but Sheridan leads this series all-time 33-20. Tri-Valley 7 of the last 10, like we mentioned, and Sheridan's won 2 out of the last 3. Just to give you a quick breakdown of the rivalry over the last really 25 years. But this one, Aaron, we probably say this every year, but it feels like it's the biggest one yet. But again, we probably say that every year. But just with how well these football teams are playing, the star power that they have on both ends of the ball, and just what's on the line.
A couple points I want to make. One, you go back to when the rivalry's already existed, but really, since the late 90s, early 2000s when it's really picked up, when Tri-Valley started becoming good at football, and of course they've maintained that tradition. But you have 2 disciples of both the previous head coaches.
Right.
Paul Culver, the third son of Paul Culver, the previous head coach. He's now leading the Generals, and then Cam West, a disciple of Justin Buttermore. Cam was the first successful quarterback that got Tri-Valley over the hump as a player.
Right.
And now he's a head coach. So you have the second-generation coaches for both of these teams that played under the previous coach. So that's an interesting tidbit. And then, of course, Will, we go down to predictions. Who's going to win tonight's game?
It's so tough, man. I feel like it's a coin flip all the time. But if you're making me pick, I think Sheridan's defense has just been so good all year. They've pitched 4 straight shutouts, and their defense is so good. Their offense is just as good.
Yeah.
And Tri-Valley's offense is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. Like Max Lyle and Jaden Wallace are fantastic football players.
Right.
And they've just done so well this year. But I feel like Sheridan's defense will make the difference in the game. And I think I got to go Sheridan. I don't know where you were leaning on this one, but
well, see, I tricked you, Will, because I never make picks. So
thanks.
Joke's on you. But what I will say is, I think what Will said is fair. Is that I think if you were just someone looking at the records and what has happened, I think the overall favorite, people would say Sheridan, just based off of what they've done defensively, how they've gotten better all year, and especially Tri-Valley's most recent game against Philo, where they surprisingly, in my opinion, gave up quite a few points to Philo, and I think that opened some people's eyes right there, that maybe their defense is a little susceptible. So I think the general fan would probably pick Sheridan, but just like the Ohio State-Michigan game, all bets are off in this rivalry game. Anything can happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I talked about that with both of these coaches. Like, at what point during you have a game plan coming in for all your star players and everything, what you're going to do scheme-wise. But at what point during the game does that just go out of the window and you're just running on pure emotion and adrenaline and all the energy that's being fed to you from the players, the crowd, and everything that's just surrounding the game? And so we talked about that with both of these coaches. But before we get into those interviews, we do want to thank our sponsor, Max Effort Muscle. We love these guys, best-tasting protein in the game. And we were joking earlier, Aaron, that this was a while ago now, but I did take 6 scoops of protein in 1 hour once.
Yeah, that's probably not advised, but it was a fun Friday afternoon summer bet, and Will took us up on that. But yeah, MaxEffortMuscle.com, fantastic sponsor, and they're going to get you right as far as getting your protein intake. Before we go to the interviews, Will, I did want to make a prediction.
Okay.
My prediction is, my gut says this is going to be a freaking classic. I really think this is going to.
Not picking a team, though.
I'm not going to pick a team because, honestly, I just want to see a great game.
No, I agree.
I want to see
100%.
a great game. And
the case to make for Tri-Valley, too, in all of their 6 wins this year, they've scored 38 or more points. And actually, in each of the last 3 weeks, they've scored 50-plus.
Oh, it's going to be a shootout.
So it's going to be a shootout. And I'm just super excited to watch.
Right, and I want to give credit. I mean, first of all, Max Lyle has had an unbelievable season. He was first-team All-Ohio as a quarterback for Tri-Valley. He's on pace again for another amazing. Only 1 interception this year.
Yeah, only 1 interception, 21 touchdowns, 1 pick.
Right.
And then their running back Jaden Wallace has over 1,600 total yards and 18 total touchdowns.
And we got to give massive props. Of course, Sheridan great as a team. Caden Sheridan,
oh my gosh,
has been a man at quarterback this year. Last year he split time with Reed Packard. This year he's been the guy. And he is arguably the best player in the MVL. He makes it go for Sheridan. Of course, his amazing line, a lot to do with that, and that amazing defense the Generals have. But Caden Sheridan right now probably would be your front runner for MVL Player of the Year, the way he's performed this season for the Generals.
Also 1 interception for him on the year as well. So both of these quarterbacks are not only slinging the ball all over the yard, throwing a bunch of touchdowns, but they're efficient and they don't turn it over. So
let's go, Will. Let's go. I mean, we're getting close to kickoff, but got some great interviews coming up.
Yes, so we're going to start with head coach Cam West of the Tri-Valley Scotties, talking about the energy surrounding this rivalry as a player, but now as a coach, and just how it's changed for him over the years and how he approaches this week. But talking about approaching this great defense as well that's pitched a shutout Sheridan has in 4 consecutive weeks. And then we'll follow it up with Paul Culver III. But thanks so much for tuning in to Stadium Drive here live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We really appreciate it. It's rivalry week, and it's week 9, baby. So here we go with head coach Cam West. Here we're with head coach Cam West of the Tri-Valley Scotties going into week 9. And I can't believe that we're this far into the season. We've only got a couple weeks of the regular season left. But, Coach, this is – first of all, I appreciate your time joining the show today. But this is the biggest game of the regular season, at least, for you and your squad. It is every year, taking on the Sheridan Generals. But before we kind of dive into this matchup and this rivalry and everything that surrounds it, I want to talk about your team a little bit, because in each of your 6 wins this year, you've scored
38 points per game, and the last 3 weeks you've scored 50 plus. So I mean, what's went into that offensive output? I'm sure obviously the defense contributes to that, setting up your offense with good field position and everything like that. But what have you been most impressed about with your team through the first 8 weeks, putting up this many points and just being as good as you have been?
Yeah, I think first of all, we're taking care of the football. Quarterback's making really good decisions, putting us in good spots. We've been pretty good on first down, which we talk about being good on first down gives you a lot of options when you're in second short and second medium. Um, in the offseason, we really sat down and focused on how we were going to kind of get the running game going. That's something over the past 3 years we really haven't found something that we're good at. So it's kind of just been a grab bag. We've tried every run scheme in the book. But this year, I think we kind of settled in the offseason on, you know what, we're going to run these few little things and we're going to try to get really good at them. And obviously up front, it's a lot simpler for those guys. So I think they have improved just in the understanding of what we want to do in the run game, get downhill quick. And obviously having Jaden Wallace, he's just had a fantastic year. I mean, he's got a bunch of yards, and I'll be the first one to say he has a lot to do with probably half of those yards because he's breaking a lot of tackles. So he's got good vision. Last year and the year before, he was kind of a guy that just wanted to bounce everything because he's fast. But this year, he's really reading blocks on the interior, and he's doing a nice job getting downhill. And if we can get downhill and catch a little seam with him, he's fast enough and strong enough that it's going to be a big play. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. And I think our perimeter blocking has been really well too. We work with our receivers blocking every single day. And I think we're just balanced. I think we try to be 50-50 for each formation if possible. And obviously that's hard to do. But I think we're a lot more balanced this year than we've been in the past.
Yeah, Jaden Wallace has over 1,600 total yards and 18 total touchdowns. Like you said, an incredible year. Max Lyle, though, like 21 touchdowns to just one interception. Like, what changed for him last season to this season in his development to not only be throwing that many touchdown passes, but being efficient and, like you said, your team's not turning the ball over.
Yeah, and I think Max worked really hard in the offseason. He's a kid that he threw every single day. He went off to Columbus and worked with quarterbacks, took quarterback coaches, took our receivers with him, and he's a kind of a student of the game, and he wants to be really good, and he's easy to coach, and he's kind of a sponge. When you tell him one thing, he kind of absorbs that and goes and puts it into action on the field. But he's really improved with his footwork. He just looks more comfortable in the pocket, understanding what the defense is trying to do, and he's been really good going through his progressions. The way our pass game set up, we don't call pass plays for a specific receiver. It's pass plays based on what they're giving us, and he's done a really good job. We haven't had to tell him where to throw the ball. He just knows pre-snap, looking at the coverage, where it's most likely he's going to go with the football. So his arm strength has improved. He just looks more comfortable in the pocket. And I think it's a testament to our guys up front too. Pass protection's been really well. We have some returning guys up front and some new guys, and those guys are big and strong and they can move. So it's a combination of things, but I think he took it upon himself in the offseason to really improve in those areas that we discussed last year.
Now, going into week 9, this Sheridan matchup, this rivalry, I mean, the communities get so involved. There's just so much energy and so much emotion surrounding this game. And I don't remember the last time, like, this is always a big game, not so much because of the rivalry, but because both teams always have something to play for, whether it's fighting for playoff position, it's a league title is almost always on the line. I mean, what's the energy like for you when you come into this week? Because obviously you were a player for this Tri-Valley program, and then you've been, a coach for so long, whether you're on the staff or taking over as head coach or what, like, what's the energy like for you when you enter this Sheridan week, knowing how much is on the line, but then just all the emotion and the adrenaline that surrounds this kind of matchup once you step on the field?
Yeah, this game is special to me. Like you said, I've been a part of a bunch of these games, whether it be a player or coaching in them. And I think what makes this week so special is growing up when I was young and started playing football in middle school and gotten into high school. I mean, Sheridan was the standard, and they kind of put the MVL on the map, and Sheridan's been good for a long time. And our goal when I was a freshman and sophomore in high school when Coach Buttermore got here was we've got to find a way to beat Sheridan. and they were the standard, and that's what we wanted to be. So we kind of finally figured that out, and like I said, since then it's just been two great teams battling every single week, and there's always a lot at stake during this game, and I think it goes back to I have a lot of respect for Sheridan. I respect what they do. I respect their coaching staff. I respect the way they play the game. And like I've said before, I think they respect the way we do things too, the way we handle our business. We're different teams. We have different ways of doing things. But at the end of the day, I think we both play the game of football the right way. And we both seem to be week 9 in the season playing for NVL championship or playoff points. So I think just that mutual respect between the programs makes this game really special.
Yeah, I mean, we could spend all day talking about the history of the rivalry and everything that goes into it, but like just looking at the last 10 years, your squad, Tri-Valley's won 7 of the last 10, but Sheridan's won 2 of the last 3 years. But talk to me about this Sheridan team this year, because obviously every year is different. I mean, the last 4 weeks they've shut out their last 4 opponents: John Glenn, Riverview, Philo, Mazo, and a couple of those teams, like John Glenn's 7-1. They're a pretty good football team, and things like that. Like, how do you prep for a team whose defense is as good as it is? It's probably the best defense that you're going to play all season long. They're so good, but then on offense, like Caden Sheridan's just such a good signal caller, and they've got great skill positions. They're great up front, offense and defensively. They're really just well-rounded. What are you looking for matchup wise this week? What's the game plan? I mean, obviously I'm sure at some point during the game plan kind of goes out of the window with all the emotion and adrenaline late in the game and everything. But how do you prep for this team this year?
Well, I think speaking on Sheridan's offense, they're always hard to handle. This year, probably a little bit more difficult than normal because Sheridan on offense is a lot more balanced than Sheridan teams of the past. I mean, they typically want to wear you down, and they're big and physical up front, and they want to run the football. But this year, I mean, their quarterback, he's what we call a dude. He can make plays inside the pocket, outside the pocket, and he has a cannon for an arm. So that kind of adds another kind of. It's just difficult to defend a kid like Caden Sheridan when he's so experienced. He seems to always make the right play. So defensively, we're going to have to strap up and play. Sheridan's defense, speaking on their defense, they're always, I mean, historically they're good. And game planning for a team that's really good is difficult because when you watch the film for Sheridan, they've got 11 good players on the field, and it's not like we can set and say, hey, we're going to attack this kid because they're all good across the board. So we're really focused on us this week. And doing what we do and trying to get better at the little things that we're going to have to be good at to beat a really good team. Because watching the film, we've scored some points offensively, but there's still things that we're doing wrong. And obviously it comes down to, in big games, you got to take care of the football on offense. We want to control the ball, try to keep Caden Sheridan off the field. I think is going to help us defensively if we can keep him off the field. So they're a tough team to prepare for. They're 8-0 for a reason. They do a nice job in preparation each and every week. Their coaches get them ready to play. So it's going to be a challenge, but our kids are excited.
Well, we're really excited to watch. I mean, this is the biggest game of the year in this area, and it has been for such a long time. But I really appreciate you taking the time today to talk some football for a few minutes, and best of luck, and go get another league title, get back to the playoffs, man, and continued success.
Hey, thank you very much.
The two guys for the Tri-Valley Scotties leading the offense tonight. Jaden Wallace has just had an unbelievable season. 1,100 rushing yards, 14 touchdowns, and 400 receiving yards, and another 4 touchdowns receiving through the air. Jaden Wallace has just been incredible, and I made a comparison on the podcast to Rashid Cisse, who is kind of a wide receiver running back combo. Jaden Wallace more of a pure running back, but certainly has the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and make people miss, and he's just been doing that all season long, and over 200 yards rushing last week, 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 receiving, and he's just been unbelievable. But even more unbelievable might be Max Lyle, because he's thrown 21 touchdown passes and 1 interception through 8 games, and you heard Coach West talk about the work that he put in during the summer. last season to this season, and now through 8 games to be playing as well as he has, 1,600 passing yards as well, and he really spreads it around too. He's not targeting one guy, drastically more than anyone else. He really spreads the ball around, finds the open guy, and he's just been remarkably good. And remarkable is really an understatement. 21 touchdowns and 1 pick through 8 games. That's pretty special right there. And he might be just a touch behind, Caden Sheridan as far as, like, if you're looking at a player of the year in the MVL, Lyle might be just a touch behind Caden Sheridan. We'll talk about Caden Sheridan here in a few minutes, but we do want to give some love to head coach Paul Culver and his Generals getting ready for this week as well, because I know he just wears his emotion on his sleeve when it comes to the game of football, because obviously his dad was the head coach of this program for so long, and then you taking over after your father, and I just know how emotional not only football gets him, but this game gets him against Tri-Valley. And, we talked during the summer on the Shot Callers podcast, in the off season, every year that he walks into the locker room or into the weight room to start a new season, he gets goosebumps. It's the start of a new football season. There's so much energy, so much excitement. And then now when you approach week 9 and you have the Scotties, it's a rivalry. It's the biggest game of the year to this point until you get to the playoffs. And there's just so much community support from both sides. And the players are juiced. And everyone's just amped up for it. And it's not only a rivalry, but there's so much on the line each and every time these two teams play. There's usually a league title up for debate, up for grabs. Whoever wins this game usually wins the league title. And you're also jockeying for playoff positioning as well, which isn't as critical now over the last couple of years because now 16 teams make it into the playoffs. But nonetheless, it's still very huge. And in this game tonight, if Sheridan wins, they claim the MVL Big School Division title. If Tri-Valley wins, they're in the driver's seat with 1 game to play. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it unfolds. But here's head coach Paul Culver talking about the emotion surrounding this game. And the goosebumps that he does feel coming into week 9. But then how do you prep for this Tri-Valley offense, who has just been so good through 8 weeks? We talked about Lyle and Wallace, the yards, the touchdowns, the lack of interceptions, the lack of turnovers. They're just so explosive. 38 points at least in each of their 6 wins, and they've scored 50-plus in each of the last 3 weeks. So how do you stop them? Well, here's head coach Paul Culver III talking about it here on Stadium Drive on Storied Rivals, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
Sweet. All right, we're here with head coach Paul Culver of the Sheridan Generals ahead of week 9, and it's honestly probably the most exciting week of the regular season, at least, because it's rivalry week, and it's the Sheridan Generals taking on the Tri-Valley Scotties. And Coach, I really appreciate your time joining the show. Before we dive into this huge game, this rivalry this week in week 9, your team over the last 4 weeks posted 4 shutouts in a row against John Glenn, Riverview, Philo, Maysville. I mean, what's the level of confidence that you have in your guys right now? Because obviously you're playing well on both sides of the football, and you're not allowing teams you're not giving teams any ground at all, and you're shutting them out. You're putting up points. I mean, what's the story, and what's the level of confidence you got in your guys as you approach these later stages of the season and getting ready for the playoffs?
I think it's the word that pops in my head is trust. We trust our staff, the interworkings of our staff completely. So if you have a defense that has to come along kind of early, you have 3 returning starters from last year's team, and all of a sudden now this year you've got 8 new starters. That means, and you got to bring along early, but you trust your staff completely. They trust each other. That the defensive line's not worried about what the linebackers are doing, what the flat defenders are doing, what the deep thirds are doing. They trust each other, and then the kids trust their coaches. That's a culture that my dad built. They know that the proof is in the pudding. And so, what's the old statement? Like, it's like Novocaine, just give it time, it'll take effect, right? Like,
yeah.
Somebody said that about their football team, like the option, I believe it was a long time ago. My dad used to say it. So, with enough time, our defensive staff and our kids, we're going to find success.
Now, we talked during the summer about like the start of every new football season. You always get goosebumps when you walk into the locker room and stuff like that, the weight room and all that. Now, is it kind of the same feeling when you get to this week of the season, you play Tri-Valley, and it's this rivalry that obviously both communities are just such a huge part of it, obviously, and there's just so much emotion surrounding it each and every year, and there's league title implications, there's playoff implications. Like, is there a different energy surrounding this game than any other game? Like when you go into Tri-Valley week?
Probably, yes, because I don't remember the last time the game didn't have significant implications. You might have to go back a decade. And so, yeah, I mean, you just always know where is it going to fall on the calendar, and you expect both teams to be right in the mix. And yeah, I get a little bit more worked up this week. I'm still a fan of the Sheridan Generals. I think that's part of what I bring to the table as a head coach is that I love the program and I love the big games, and I love what it does for our community and what our community does for our football team. I love that reciprocal relationship, and like they're going to come out and just support us to the nth degree. It's going to be awesome. I see things on Facebook like mothers talking about putting together a tunnel and that kind of stuff. And so it's just extraordinary to watch and celebrate what these kids are a part of. And so yeah, I get goosebumps because I'm still a Sheridan General.
Now, we could spend, like an entire hour probably just talking about the history of this rivalry and everything. But if you just look at the last 10 years, Tri Valley's won 7 of the last 10, but 2 out of the last 3 have gone to you, and you won your 20th league title. Like Sheridan won his 20th league title last year, which, I mean, Sheridan's been in the league the least amount of time, so to have 20 league titles, it's pretty special. But I mean, talk about this year, because obviously this year is a little bit different. Tri Valley's got some returning faces, like Max Lyle, their quarterback. He's playing really well, and he's just another year wiser, another year older, and another year more skilled and experienced. But then like this Jaden Wallace kid as well, he's just so explosive, and it's kind of just been the coming out party for him this year. I mean, he had over 200 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns last week, one on the ground, one through the air. I mean, like their offense is just extremely talented. So what goes into prep for Lyle, but also this Wallace kid he's just a dynamo offensively.
Absolutely. So I think when you run a spread offense like they do, and you have a quarterback that can hit all the targets sideline to sideline and 50, 60 yards down the field, that stresses a defense. But then to know that they have the home run threat that's always in the backfield and run the ball, but then like slipping out and catching screens. You said he had a touchdown catch last week. That screen was, I just thought, oh man, not too many defenses are stopping that. Because what it does is it forces you to make tackles in space. That's the biggest evolution of the game of football that people don't fully understand, is that the spread offense, the passing game evolved, but what the passing game really created was the lateral passing and the vertical passing. Yes, but the lateral passing creates space tackling. The defenses have to run sideways and make tackles instead of just playing what my dad used to call phone booth football. Just pack it in and we'll just be whoever's tougher. And so tackling someone in open space is impossibly hard, especially an athlete like what you're talking about that they have, and they have multiple athletes like that. So we have to fly to the football. We have to gang tackle. We have to get off blocks because, basic math, 11 defenders, 11 offensive players, quarterback probably isn't blocking anybody, running back's running the ball. So they got 9 blockers on 11. So you have a chance, depending upon scheme, to get one person free to the ball carrier. But a kid like that takes 2 or 3. And so somebody's getting off a block.
Right. Now, at what point, because I mean, you've been around the block, you've played this game so many times and everything, and like emotion just kind of takes over at a certain point. Like, at what point during the game does the game plan just kind of go out the window, and it's just you're running on pure emotion, and you're feeding off the energy from both crowds, and obviously there's a lot of luck involved when it comes to a rivalry game as well. Like, at what point does the game plan just kind of obviously you stick to it in the first half, but then like second half, things get tight and the emotions there and there's so much pressure. Like, at what point does the game plan just kind of go out the window and you're just running on pure emotion and adrenaline?
100%. Last year was a key case in point. Like our go-ahead touchdown was Reed Packer creating with his feet and finding an open receiver, and that's not on the script. I think if the other team is well prepared and well coached, so Tri-Valley, check, right? They're going to be able to counterpunch and give and take with what you do. And I'd like to believe we do the same. And so at some point, there's going to be, unless there's a wide gap in ability, there's going to be some type of a stalemate in terms of preparedness and, skill level. And so then at some point, somebody has to, what we say,
We had a little glitch there with the end of the video with head coach Paul Culver III, but the Sheridan defense the last few weeks here in the MVL, John Glenn 7-1. They shut them out 14-0. At Riverview, who is 0-8 on the year, they won 62-0. Philo, who's 5-3 on the year, shut them out 33-0, and then Maysville last week, who's 2-6, 48-0 victory. This Sheridan defense the last 4 weeks has just been absolutely rock solid. That's an understatement, and they've just been so good. But just to kind of touch upon Coach Culver's final point there, just about talking about emotion taking over, and Reed Packer with the play of the game to kind of win it for the Generals, creating with his feet, finding a wide open receiver. That's what it's going to take in this football game to win, really. I mean, you're going to have the first half, things stay on script, and you have a plan of what you're going to do. But at some point, all of that just has to go out the window, and you just have to run on pure emotion and adrenaline. You're feeding off the players, you're feeding off the crowd, and it's so difficult. I want to make a note about, we talked about Max Lyle earlier and his stats, 21 touchdowns, 1 interception, throwing the ball extremely well and efficiently. But Caden Sheridan, I wanted to talk about him as well because he has just been so good, and Aaron talked about it at the top of the show. 1,300 yards and 16 touchdowns, also 1 interception this season. So he has been lights out as well. It's really it's a battle between 2 great quarterbacks, great offensive players, and then Sheridan's defense. Like I think honestly could just because of how well they've played, shutting out teams, it really could come down to who makes a stop at the end. And Sheridan also has 6 rushing touchdowns this season to go along with his 16 touchdown passes. So he can run it as well. There's athletes all over the field in this game, and I am just so stoked to watch them here tonight. But I want to take you to some games going on around the area as well. So we'll start with games in eastern and northeastern Ohio, some MVL games and around IVC, things like that. We have Sandy Valley at Garraway, Ridgewood at Claymont, Kent Roosevelt at Talmadge, Beaver Local at Cambridge, Belair at Union Local. Philo and John Glenn will go to battle in the MVL. Riverview travels to Maysville. Meadowbrook will host Morgan and the Raiders. West M at Coshocton. Watkins Memorial will go to Zanesville. And then Kenmore Garfield at Akron East. And then we'll show you the games going on in central and western Ohio as well. Fairmont will travel to Centerville, Upper Arlington at Dublin Kaufman, Scioto at Big Walnut, Gahanna at Grove City, Licking Valley at Granville, Bloom Carroll at Hamilton Township, and Hamilton Township's just been on a historic run this season, which we talked about last week. Heath at Newark Catholic, Olentangy Liberty at Hilliard Davidson, Bell Fountain at Jonathan Alder, New Albany at Pickerington North, Olentangy at Dublin Jerome, and Hilliard Bradley at Olentangy Orange. And again, all of the teams that you see highlighted in blue are the schools that we cover for our Unreal highlights that go out every week starting on Monday through the end of the week on Friday, or on Thursday, and get you ready for Friday's games. But man, oh man, tons of great games on the schedule here this evening. But let's wrap up tonight's show and just touch on this rivalry once again because it's huge. I think that goes without saying, and you heard Coach West and Coach Culver talk about it. I'm just excited to watch these playmakers, though. Lyle, Jaden Wallace, who is just absolutely fantastic athlete. Not only is he fast and explosive and quick and make people miss, but he's got extremely good vision, which is honestly the most important quality that you need in a running back, is someone who, obviously you would like to have someone who is just an extremely good athlete, but that only gets you so far. If you're not willing to let your offensive line block for you, create seams and lanes to run through, and you're not patient enough to wait for those to develop, then you're kind of working against yourself. And Jaden Wallace has done phenomenal this year. His development from last year to this year and just being more patient, that's really what I'm excited to watch against this stout Sheridan defensive front. Is Tri-Valley going to be able to open up some holes, and will Wallace be able to squeeze through those holes and make some stuff happen for this Tri-Valley offense, who has just put up tons and tons of points, 50-plus over the last 3 weeks. And, this Sheridan defense, they don't give up points, so something's got to give. So it's just really such a good game that I'm excited to watch here tonight. And I do want to show you one last time the history of this rivalry, because it is truly incredible. The last 24 matchups, 1999 through last year, 2022, dominated early by Sheridan here. You see Sheridan won, the first 7 of this stretch here, just from 99 to 2005. And then Tri-Valley got a couple wins, and they've won 7 of the last 10 matchups. And then the last 3 years, Sheridan has won 2 out of 3. So it's really back and forth, and you see it up there, 12 and 12, even split. I mean, it's just every single year, it's just a coin flip. And Sheridan leads this all-time series 33-20. Of course, they dominated, pre-1999 when they first joined the league and everything. And Aaron talked about Tri-Valley was kind of a sleeping giant. And they became great at football once Justin Buttermore arrived and transformed the program, and Cam West was a huge part of that as their quarterback, one of, if not the most successful quarterback that they've had. And so he's just been remarkable, as not only as a player but as a coach for this program. But, I'm so excited to watch here tonight. And so let's give a shout-out one last time to our sponsors, Max Effort Muscle, the best tasting protein in the game. They're just so good. I have their stuff almost every single day. I have their protein and supplements and things. They have great stuff. I got a couple T-shirts, too. I love rocking their stuff in the gym, maxeffortmuscle.com. Follow the guys on Instagram. They have put out such great fitness content. They've always got deals on all their stuff all the time as well. So make sure you go check them out, and we really appreciate them supporting us this year, supporting this show, helping us hype games, the biggest games in every area, in the area every single week. We really appreciate them, but this is it, man. The MVL championship really is on the line tonight. If Sheridan wins, they're MVL Big School Division champions, and it'll be their 21st league title. And if Tri-Valley wins, they're in the driver's seat with 1 week to go. So super exciting. But I appreciate you tuning in to Stadium Drive Week 9 here live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter on the Storied Rivals pages. Thanks so much. Make sure you share, like the post, like the live. And make sure you tune in next week for Week 10 to wrap up the regular season, and we'll see you in the playoffs too, baby. So thanks so much for joining us, but enjoy the game tonight. Make sure you follow us on all the socials for updates on this game and other games going on around the area that you want to tune into. But we'll see you in Week 10 for Stadium Drive. Will Ford signing off for now. Take care.